Something heartbreaking is happening right now to RFK Jr. and MAHA as a whole. From Ozempic to Susie Wiles, Lobbyists, 180s from Kennedy himself, and more. We need to talk about all of it because this matters. So welcome to the Moreno Show. Please like, subscribe, and let's dive right in. So RFK Jr., our Secretary of Health and Human Services, has been doing some things that aren't just out of character, but out of complete alignment from his past self. And I am all for changing your mind and growing and developing a new understanding, all that jazz, of course. But at the same time, I think we need to be honest with each other and call things as they are. Things haven't been the same since Charlie died. And I've been hesitant to be critical of RFK Jr., of AHHS, because I do think patience matters. But I fear that all of MAHA is under threat, and so is MAGA while we're at it. And to be clear, this isn't coming out of a place of hate. No, I think this is coming out of a desperate concern. Many people across the political spectrum are saying that MAGA is dead, and I really won't go that far. But unless there's a course correction, we are effectively digging our grave, and we got to talk about it. So starting with the idea of 50-year mortgages recently proposed by President Trump, look at what RFK Jr. from the past has to say about this. It is bone chilling.
We've all heard stories of 20 and 30-year-old kids who can't afford to buy a house and even can't afford rent and are moving back in with their parents. This isn't happening because young people have suddenly gotten lazy. Monthly mortgage payments for home buyers are up 20% just in the last year, and that's because interest rates have doubled. Meanwhile, the cost of the average home has gone from $250,000 to $400,000 just since 2019. And those higher home prices have also driven up the cost of rent. So now Americans are paying a third of their income for rent. That's the highest ratio since records were kept. So what's happening? Well, what's happening is BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, these giant corporations which own 88% of the S&P 500, are going into real estate. These investment firms swoop in as soon as a house comes on the market. They outbid prospective home buyers with cash offers. They add that property to their investment portfolio, and then they rent it back to you or your children at the most exorbitant rate that the market can bear. So how can our kids or the typical American homeowner win a bidding war with BlackRock? By 2030, these giant corporations are on track to own 60% of the single-family homes in our country. So BlackRock wants to be everybody's landlord and everybody's neighbor, but I'm not going to let that happen. When I get to the White House, I'm going to restore affordable home ownership to every American, and I'm going to do that without raising the national debt. And here's how I'm going to accomplish that feat. I'm going to create a federal program that backs mortgages at 3% financed by tax-free bonds. These mortgages are going to be available to people only, not corporations. This will drop mortgage payments by more than $1,000 a month for a medium-priced home and allow your children to outcompete BlackRock in the market. So here's how it works. Imagine that you had a rich uncle who was willing to co-sign your mortgage. Well, I'm going to make Uncle Sam that rich uncle. It's not a giveaway, it's a loan guarantee that makes that property affordable to millions of Americans who cannot now afford it. This is just one of the policies that the Kennedy administration will deploy to create millions of new home buying opportunities at payments of less than $1,000 a month. We're also going to change the tax code to get corporations out of the single-family home market. And we're going to work with municipalities to get empty lots and derelict homes back into circulation at low prices. As President of the United States, I'm going to create a housing boom in this country the same way that we did it after World War II when we made home ownership affordable for working people.
RFK Jr. says that these huge corporations want to be everyone's landlord. And in typical RFK Jr. fashion, he brought the receipts while also providing some solutions. But he's right. homes have skyrocketed, monthly payments are up, and what our secretary feared is now coming to life because President Trump wants us to sign these 50-year mortgages. Another video that has been resurrected from the past, I saw this by Lauren Lee. This is about lobbyists and the corrupt reality of how they operate in DC. This footage is haunting because if you've been paying attention, you'll know that this residue that he's called out provocatively in the past is now our reality that we are battling with today. Look at this.
Whether it's Obama or President Trump or Biden, come into office saying, I'm going to get rid of the swamp. I'm going to get rid of the corruption. But then they get in there and something happens. You know, Trump got in there saying, I'm going to get rid of the swamp. He asked me to be on a vaccine safety commission. When that news got out, Pfizer gave him $1 million for the inauguration and then for his inaugural party. And then he appointed two of Pfizer's lobbyists, Scott Gottlieb and Alex Azar, to run HHS, and they killed the Vaccine Safety Commission. And then Gottlieb went to serve on Pfizer's board. That is the swamp. And they, you know, when these guys get in there, what happens to them, they either get co-opted because all the money and because all the congressional chairs are captured by those agencies, so they can't do anything unless they do what they're told, or they just get overwhelmed because these agencies are so huge and the corruption is so entrenched in them that that they don't know how to fix it. They don't know how. They're not going to go in the weeds and fix it. So they appoint somebody safe to run that agency, you know, somebody like Pete Buttigieg, who's not going to fix it, who's going to basically make sure that he doesn't embarrass the presidency over the next 4 years. And he's safe, and he doesn't know how to run that agency or fix it. He relies on the guys who've been there for 20 years to make sure nothing bad happens that's going to embarrass the president. And they also have all these different capacities for committing civil disobediences. If he does something they don't like, they know how to kind of bring the economy down, bring the country down, they're the guys who make the railroads run on time. And if you do something they don't like, they can stop the railroads from running on time and cause, a lot of embarrassment. Nothing ever changed. Well, the thing, that I feel like I have, Jimmy, is that I've sued those agencies for 40 years. I know how they work. I've written books about them. I've studied them. I know the people in them who are causing the problems. I know how to fix them. I said to Ron DeSantis, what are you going to do about NIH? And he said, I'm going to burn it to the ground. And that is one way of handling it. But there are a lot of people at NIH who are actually doing their jobs, and they're idealistic and they're committed. But it's usually the people who are the branch heads and department heads who make sure that nothing ever happens at those agencies that interferes with corporate profit taking. And I know how to fix those.
Hearing RFK Jr. say that he knows how to fix these things, it's hard to hear. It really is. RFK Jr. at one of his rallies said, "Give me a sword and some ground to stand on, and I will give you your country back." And right now, people are wondering where that Kennedy is, where this Kennedy is, right? The one who says that he knows how to fix these things, but is operating in a space that feels incredibly limited, right? And look at this. Brett Weinstein was recently on with Joe Rogan, and they're talking about this. They're saying that MAHA is in trouble. He is sounding the alarm with Joe Rogan. Take a look.
Do I think there's a way for the world to be structured?
Yes.
You're never going to get rid of all the bad people, but that it's tolerant, that it deals with the bad people sufficiently well, that the good people have enough of a stake, that the objectives are clear enough, that people have meaning in their life, that they can it be structured so that it works?
Right.
Not perfectly, but well enough. Yeah, I absolutely believe that it can.
So what do you think?
Hold on, but the second question, where I'm more pessimistic, is there a path from here to there?
Oh, so it could be done, but is there a path?
Right.
Hooey.
Things are so wildly fucked up. And, I'm watching, in many cases, my friends pulled into the administration with a lot of momentum behind them. And I'm watching something seemingly prevent the promise that was there from being realized. Right?
You're talking about RFK.
Well, I'm talking about, RFK. I was just with Jay Bhattacharya. There's something that when the good people get to Washington and try to do the right thing, there is an architecture that drains them, that wastes their efforts, that places roadblocks, that causes them to back their objectives way off. And I don't know what it is, but it's disheartening to see it. I mean, even just, we could talk about the mRNA vaccines. This one was so clear. We've got people in Washington who know it. They can't apparently get these things off the market. Like, what the hell is that?
If I was running the board right now, I'd start playing the theme song, that Pink Floyd song "Money." You know the beginning of that.
Oh, sure.
Dun, 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 dun.
It is just, it's really hard to watch things like this without getting emotional because, I spent so much of this past year advocating for RFK Jr. because I believed so deeply in the values that he's portrayed and the vision that he has for this future. And I still do believe a lot of this, but it does make me wonder, like, if RFK Jr. wasn't or isn't the person who could push this future forward, then could anyone? Because if things are so corrupt and this goes so many layers deeper than we could imagine, are we too far gone? I think Brett makes a really, really good question when he asks, is there a path from where we are today to a path that is healthier, more full, less corrupt? I don't know. And if you're wondering why all this is happening, one name comes up time and again, and it's Susie Wiles. For the past few days, people have been vocal about their dissatisfaction with the progress that they're not seeing, and posts have gone just mega viral. But it was almost entirely all speculation until RFK Jr. made a stunning announcement from his personal account. Look at this. This was shared yesterday. The MAHA movement has no better friend in Washington than Susie Wiles, who has supported every effort to end the chronic disease epidemic and restore health freedom to every American. A small number of chaos agents are now targeting Susie out of ignorance or malice. Let's focus on our extraordinary achievements to date and the monumental work that still needs to be done. I refuse to be distracted. Let's build our coalition instead of splintering it. And he continues because another person that has been attacked here is Stephanie Spear, right? I believe she was his press secretary during the campaign, and now she's pretty much his left-hand person. He says, and regarding my longtime friend, Stephanie Spear, Stephanie, like many former Democrats, myself included, drank the Kool-Aid of Trump derangement syndrome. Like me, she had a come to Jesus moment during the 2024 presidential campaign when we got to see the campaigns in action from front row seats and realized the threat of dictatorship in America wasn't President Trump, but a heartless technocracy controlled by the deep state DNC. President Trump has no more committed loyalists than Stephanie Spear. So when RFK Jr. wrote this was like gasoline on a spark that lit the entire internet on fire. This told people that the threads that they were pulling were correct. They were right. And Tiffany Cianci, day one MAHA complete Kennedy advocate, responds with this. And just like that, you make Brett Weinstein absolutely correct. You realize that she negotiated all of Pfizer's demands as their lead lobbyist. The fact that you could even write this is so horrifying to me. I actually don't know how to respond. I'm just disappointed. I wasn't kidding when I started this video off and I said that this was heartbreaking to see. In another post, we see Holden Kuloda also talking about Susie Wiles just crushing MAHA. And in a quote tweet, Tom Renz says, "Why would anyone doubt this? Trump's chief of staff, Wiles, worked for Mercury LLC and, to my knowledge, is still a managing partner. Mercury has represented Pfizer, Gavi, and more. She brought in Pam Bondi, who represented Pfizer in the past year, MD Breathe and Peter McCullough. The MAHA movement needs to know that we are in the backseat at best right now, even with RFK Jr. at HHS." I hope I don't sound too pessimistic because I am grateful for the many accomplishments that we have seen this far, but MAHA movement did get hit with a brick wall. And look at this. The poster says, "Oh, this graphic is interesting. Former lobbyist to run White House." And look at that. Yep, no party is free of corruption. It is so sad. I'm getting so radicalized right now. You don't even know. And I hope you are too. But if this is just blowing your mind right now, all of this, any part of this video, just why don't you do me a favor? Comment down below, say something like Home Alone. All right. I love Christmas movies. I love wintertime. But you know what? MAHA is very Home Alone right now. And it is a bit sad. So comment Home Alone if this is blowing your mind. But if you're out there and you're simply like, well, why don't we just replace Susie Wiles? That makes sense, right? Wouldn't that solve all of our problems? Well, look at what Brett says. He says, replace Susie Wiles? You are not getting it. God himself couldn't replace Susie Wiles. Pretty much saying that, yeah, things are pretty bad. All right, that is tough. And then Ozempic comes crashing into the scene like the Kool-Aid guy when RFK Jr. defends it, saying that Americans are going to lose about 135 million pounds by this time next year. Look at this.
Oh, we haven't forgotten about that, but I am convinced that this overall is going to be a good thing for the American people, and it's going to be good for us financially. And I think we're going to lose about 135 million pounds by this time next year, and that is going to have advantages with, again, cardiovascular diseases and diabetes and all these other renal diseases, liver disease and all these other chronic diseases that are associated with obesity.
There's no doubt that we have 50% of adults that are obese in this country, and it's been a problem that has been pervasive for a really long time, and encouraging diet and exercise hasn't really made a difference. Dramatic difference in that, unfortunately. And I know you have stressed those things and the Physical Fitness Award and all of this. So hopefully some of those things will pay off. But so do you believe that Ozempic and Wegovy and these drugs, that they are safe for long-term use for Americans?
Well, I didn't say that. I said I think every pharmaceutical intervention has risks. And there are some pretty well-documented risks for these GLP drugs. And so people should talk with their doctors and be aware of those risks and be alert to them because, yeah, there are definitely risks.
Okay.
And again, you know, the optimal way for us to, and we are, you know, President Trump has us revising the dietary guidelines. We're going to dramatically change the food culture in this country, and is relaunching the Presidential Council on Physical Fitness. We're going to start getting our kids fit again, but this is an arrow in the quiver.
Got it. I got it.
Things like this are just fingerprints telling people that something has changed, right? Something that's hard to express, but undeniable nonetheless, which is why many people feel that the Trump administration is losing support. Do you agree? You let me know in the comments. And then Holden Kuloda also drops this fiery bomb saying that the NIH under MAHA control gave pharma $24 million to run experiments on beagles. This is precisely the kind of testing that RFK Jr. campaigned to end. So Holden is very clearly asking the real questions here. What is the director of the NIH doing? Why is funding of these terrible experiments being renewed? You know, when we face evil, we have to have the courage to call it out, especially when we were promised a new era, when we were promised a new expression of politics, when we were promised a new Washington, D.C., not just one with new faces. Brett Weinstein also posted this today on X, and I wanted to share it. He said, I don't regret voting for Trump because the alternative was unthinkable, truly. But wow, am I disappointed. I also wanted to share this meme at the bottom. Look at this top meme. Trump's promises, and it's a photo of Sydney Sweeney, and then Trump's actual candidacy, and it is a photo of Greta Thunberg. And I can't think of a single meme that feels more relevant right now. I think this might actually be the single photo that perfectly captures what people are feeling right now, the disappointment that we're facing. It is excruciating, and I do think that photo captures the pain. All this to say, I'm really saddened right now with the current state of this administration, at least for the past few weeks. And in the beginning, I also shared that I think we should be honest that something happened when Charlie died. And it seemed like we're trying to recover. We don't know how to operate in a world without him. And maybe he was doing far more things behind the scenes than we could possibly imagine. Maybe he was President Trump's ear to the ground. I saw this exchange from Lauren Lee and Holden Kalota, and I just thought it was perfect. She says, I mean, it's pretty obvious that something is wrong, right? Nothing they promised is happening. Holden says, we were promised a revolution, and we've been given the status quo. So while the pain that I'm feeling is real, I'm also fueled by the independents, the people who look past the lens of the establishment and realize that this brokenness just exists, and they're willing to call it out. Like, we need to be demanding more from the people that we put in this space, in these agencies. We put these people in these positions with our blood, sweat, tears, our finances, our hearts, and I don't think it's too late for this administration to become the very thing that it promised us, to become a beacon of transparency, affordability, guided by righteous character that doesn't waver. And I still believe in that future, and I hope you do too. So tell me what you think about all this in the comment section, from RFK Jr. to MAHA to MAGA to Susie Wiles. I would love to know what you think about all this in the comment section. And if you made it this far, please like, subscribe, turn on the bell, all that jazz. And I will see you all next time. Episode's over already? Geez, that was fast. Well, they say beautiful things do not last forever, but feel free to watch and listen to another one of these episodes if you're interested in those conversations as well. Also, this next part is huge. Make sure to obliterate that like and subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never skip a beat. I also have a newsletter where we dive into the news, politics, and ideas that shape our future. If you're interested in signing up, I'd really appreciate that. Anyways, that's the end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I'll see you next time.